I'm Christine Chao. I'm a corporate attorney, and I'm just so pleased to be here, so thank you so much. So I am one of those people who have always known what I wanted to do. Ever since I was a little girl, I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer. I think it's because my parents, who were born and raised in China, left China when the communists took power. Actually, my mom left earlier because her family were landlords and they saw the writing on the wall. My dad was actually a captain on a ship, and he was at sea when the communists took power, and so he just didn't go back. And in fact, he actually never saw his father again. But I was born in the United States, and growing up in a democracy, I was always acutely aware of the freedoms that we as Americans enjoy that so many others don't, and I just wanted to fix that. Of course, I wound up being a different kind of a lawyer, but that's another story. So I'm a corporate attorney, and growing up, I always thought I would be a litigator. But then I had a horrendous moot court experience my first year of law school, and that was that. But I'm a firm believer that things have a way of working out for the best. In retrospect, I think corporate law is much more suited to my personality. Corporate law is generally more conciliatory, with parties working together to forge a deal, as opposed to the more combative adversarial nature of litigation, which is zero-sum. I'll be the first to admit I've led a very blessed life. So my obstacles have really been more internal rather than external. One of the things I struggle with is believing in myself. I've since learned this is a very common characteristic among women. There's been a lot of press about it lately. I think Claire Shipman wrote a book, The Confidence Code. Sheryl Sandberg talks about it in conjunction with Lean In. So for example, did you know that women see a job posting, and unless they fulfill 95 to 100% of the criteria, they don't bother to apply? Whereas men will see a job posting, and they meet 55% of the criteria and they go for it. So it's a very different result there, right? Another thing I struggle with is what I call the superwoman complex. Feeling like I have to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect lawyer. I was at Facebook a few years ago, and they have placards all over the workplace. And I remember that I saw one that really resonated with me. It said, "Better done than perfect." And it's a good reminder for me. There's also a line in the book Unbroken that I love. One of the pilot's parents used to always say this to his kids. And it's something to the effect, do your best as you know how to do it. And when things get beyond your skill or ability, ask the Lord to step in and help out. You know, for the most part, I really think being a woman has helped me. I come from a family of 6 daughters. Growing up, we referred to ourselves as women warriors. My parents were immigrants from China, and they always emphasized to us that we had a distinctly unique background. Having a Chinese heritage and growing up in America was really an advantage. And if we could somehow figure out how to blend the best of Eastern culture with the best of Western culture, we could really be something fantastic. So I have always been attracted to companies that value diversity. And in fact, diversity has become a little bit of a catchphrase now. A lot of companies are embracing the concept, but I sought out companies who value diversity not because it was politically correct, but because they recognized it makes economic sense. Varied perspectives produce superior products, superior processes, and superior results. So having said that, of course there have been times when being a woman has not been an advantage. I think human nature dictates that we naturally gravitate toward people who are like ourselves. So sometimes being the only woman or the only Asian woman in a room hasn't always been so comfortable. And I haven't always been treated so equitably. But nobody said life is fair. And I think if you dwell on those times when you haven't been treated fairly, you can make yourself crazy. When you see injustice, you note it, you address it, and you move on. I would say speak up. So there is a local golf club that had a rule that women could not tee off until 10 or 11 a.m. on weekends and holidays. What I had naively thought was an anachronistic oversight was in fact a very deliberate and conscious decision. Long story short, the rule got changed. It was a very unpleasant experience. But what really surprised me is how many people were aware of the rule, acknowledged the injustice of the rule, but didn't want to make waves. Sometimes you just need to make waves. You need to do it in the right way, but you need to make waves. So there's been a lot of press lately about how women do things differently than men. Women are more consensus builders. I think most recently there's been press about how women apologize more than men. And I think implicit in these articles is that women somehow have to be men to succeed. And I think this is a very pernicious message because I think, as Stephen Covey said, our strength lies in our differences, not our similarities. So I would really encourage women to not take that route. The other thing I would say is don't get discouraged when things get tough. Leslie Bennett's talked about this in her book, The Feminine Mistake. She calls it the 15-year paradigm. It takes about 15 years to raise your kids, but your working life is about 40 years or longer as mortality rates rise. And it does get really tough for a period, but it's a finite amount of time. So if you can just kind of stick with it and not give up, if that's what you want to do. If you don't want to work, that's fine. But if you do want to work, don't give up just because it gets tough for a finite amount of time. You know, it's funny, I've always worked. It just made sense for me. I think I'm a better mom for it, and I've always liked the subliminal message it sent to my boys. And I will end with this funny vignette. So when I was in Hong Kong, I headed up the legal department for FedEx. And quite coincidentally, the entire department was women. And it was a small department, but nevertheless, all women. So all the admins, all the legal assistants, all the lawyers, women. And my office was pretty centrally located. So my nanny would bring Ben down, I don't know, maybe once a month. And he would come down for a few minutes. It was actually very cute. He'd walk from reception to my office like he owned the place, saying hi to everyone. And one day he was about 3 years old, and I asked him what he wanted to be when he grew up. And he starts reeling off this litany of things. Race car driver, detective, firefighter, right? Because of course at 3 he doesn't realize he has to choose one. And I stopped him and I said, so Ben, would you ever consider being a lawyer? Do you want to be a lawyer? And he looked at me like I were daft. And he said, oh my, stop joking with me. Only girls can be lawyers. So thank you very much.